Welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Bud Elliott. That's Tom Fornelli. I'm Chip Patterson. Week 4, not quite in the books, but goodness gracious, do we have headlines. We've got Texas A&M down, Clemson down, Notre Dame with a statement win against Wisconsin. The Clemson Tigers, what do we do from here? There's a lot to piece apart just from the top of the rankings. Plus, we've got some incredibly bad beats from all across the FBS landscape and some interesting twists in our own locks journey. Gentlemen, I would like to begin not like quite chronologically, but as we have people that are joining us here at youtube.com/cover3 to enjoy the instant reaction live. I think unless producer Matt Coco wants to jump in, are you guys okay just pushing like Oklahoma's win against West Virginia to the back burner for a little bit? 16-13.
No, I demand we spend the next hour talking about that and that only.
Tom was in the crowd chanting for Caleb Williams. So
true. Real quick, do you want to just give me a hot 30 on the Oklahoma quarterback situation and where Tom Fornelli stands?
I just want to say that when I started like the Caleb Williams things in the offseason, it was kind of tongue-in-cheek in that I hadn't really seen Caleb Williams play, so I couldn't know too much. It was just more a statement on what I thought of Spencer Rattler from what I saw of him last year and the hype surrounding him and like the Heisman favor. It was just like I thought I was watching a different QB. That said, while I might be seen as the leader of the Caleb Williams movement, I do not approve of chanting for the backup quarterback in your own stadium while your own team is on the field. That is lame as hell.
Bad look.
Yeah.
Right?
But you are boycotting all products that Spencer Rattler endorses, right?
Correct, because he's like what? He's got that vegan thing.
Yeah.
Is that a starting point for Tom Fornelli being on like?
I'm just saying, like, I've got nothing against vegans. Like, if that's your thing and that's how you want to live and that's what you do, cool. I mean, I understand why you do that and what your thought process is behind it, but I don't know, man. I don't know how many Hall of Fame quarterbacks there are who were vegans.
So I think that the game that probably resonated the most was that game in Jerry World. Arkansas's win against Texas A&M comes with so many headlines. KJ Jefferson gets knocked out of the game. Couple of explosive plays early really give the Razorbacks the edge. The Aggies offense just could not get anything going here. I would like to know, can you look at this game and can you look at this result and analyze it moving forward without thinking about Alabama? Because one of my real struggles is to look at this and think about like, man, like I tell you what, Barry Odom's got this Arkansas defense cooking. Like this is yet another quarterback, albeit a young quarterback. They confused Hudson Card. They have now confused another younger quarterback in Zach Calzada. But I also think that you've got to look at just some general performance where if you continue to exceed expectations time and time again, even going through the loss of a starting quarterback in KJ Jefferson, I mean, what are the storylines? What stands out to y'all about Arkansas's win against Texas A&M?
Well, Texas A&M, do they have any passes of 20 yards to like an actual receiver?
No, they're wheel routes. I have not looked this up, and I do not have the official statistics, but unofficially, they are just all wheel routes.
Yeah, the only pass they had of greater than 20 yards today was to Aeneas Smith. Like they had an 18, a 19, a 15, and a 23. Those were their quote-unquote big plays in the past.
He's technically a receiver, I guess, even though they used him as a back last year. Like they just don't hit any explosive plays in the pass game. We talked about this all offseason. How can Texas A&M take the next step? Well, they will need to find a way to actually hit an explosive play or two at all, right? That's what we need to do. Now, what happened? 2018, like 99th in passing explosiveness. 2020, terrible again. 2019 as well, just outside the top 100. This year, kind of right back there, right? Yeah. They're just not explosive through the air. Arkansas's defense is a good defense. I don't think it's like a crazy defense, but it's pretty good. And A&M just doesn't hit anything explosive. They're not good enough doing what they do, trying to run the football. They don't have Haynes King in there. credit goes to Arkansas for playing their game and winning, even when their quarterback went out.
Like, I mean, we've talked about it in the past. Jimbo's offense is kind of intricate. I mean, he's doing himself a disservice with that, I think, overall, but I think especially with a backup QB. Like, I feel like there's at some point you have to get over yourself in a way and just simplify things a little bit, just make it a little easier. And I think that was very evident watching Zach Calzada play today, because I felt like, kind of like we talked about with DJU last week, Chip, I just, there's not much confidence in that kid when I watched him play today. It just, he seemed like unsure of himself. He seemed hesitant to make decisions. And I think that really costs the Aggies offense. So yeah, I think on the other side, I mean, that was an Arkansas game. Like, KJ Jefferson, when he was playing and he was healthy, the offense, it wasn't spectacular, but it looked good enough. They were running the ball. I feel like the one maybe most encouraging thing about this game for me, as far as Arkansas, besides the fact that they won the game, but like they weren't great running the ball today compared to how they have been all season, and they were still able to beat Texas A&M and hold, by 2 scores. So I feel like if I'm the Hogs, I'm pretty optimistic about that going forward, and I think that I'm clearly the second best team in the SEC West.
Clearly, with Ole Miss sidelines, small sample size, Ole Miss Rebels, which will get their day in the spotlight in the SEC on CBS Game of the Week. I come out of this with a lot of respect and continued appreciation for what Arkansas does defensively, because it's a great college football defense. They all flow to the ball. They all are very well coached, and they all seem to work together as a unit in a way that has me wondering. And one of the conversations that we had going into, unplanned, but going into the hit and record and going live with you here on youtube.com/cover3, and for all of the subscribers and listeners of the Cover 3 podcast, like, is this defensive? It's not a defensive renaissance, but it is certainly a little bit of an adjustment where we are looking at the year and we're saying, like, where are the good offenses? And I wonder if in the 2020 season, with all the restrictions and with the way this season was staggered, was it offense advantage because of 2020? And now we're starting to see just some good, well-coached defenses be able to play above what would be talent level. Because if we're going exclusively on talent level, there's a reason why Texas A&M was a favorite here. Like, if we're going exclusively on like your talent ratings, Arkansas should probably not have these wins against Texas and Texas A&M, but they've got a great scheme, and they've got one that works for their personnel. But I think that we're seeing in a lot of different places that, this idea that the elite offenses are there. Either the quarterbacks are way short of anything that we were expecting, but maybe it's also just the ebbs and flows of college football as a sport. Is that outlandish to throw that out there as a possibility? I mean, is it outlandish to think defenses are performing better because they're allowed to be near each other during the week? They're allowed to practice and have contact. The cohesion, like, even let's
like spending time together. You're allowed to spend time together, and I think that's important for defenses.
Here in the 9th minute, I'll use my soccer minutes here. I'm going to say that we started to tap into one of the deepest existential questions of the 2021 season. Does being in contact with other human beings more often lead to better teamwork?
Yes.
I'm going to say yes as my layman's observation.
Defense is a tactile. I don't know.
I don't know, Bud. What do you make? I mean, are you seeing that in the numbers as well, or just the give and take of what we're seeing with the offense and defense?
I think we just lost some really special quarterbacks at the top of the sport, and then some guys who were, even if it took us a while to realize they were special during the year. I mean, like, who are your best quarterbacks in the sport right now? Last year was easy, right? It's Trevor, it's Justin. After a while, you realize Mac Jones was one of them. He had a great team to throw to, but he was also playing at a very high level. Like, it was pretty easy to rattle them off. Now, like who are the best quarterbacks in college football? Part of it, I think, comes back to that 2019 class that I've said really was lacking. You could stand on the field and see it, but who do you like now?
No, but
he was like a no doubt first round type guy playing.
Well, I can also throw out a list of quarterbacks who we once said were going to be great. Like the existing group of quarterbacks are all ones that have been around. It's Tanner Morgan, who almost lost to Bowling Green. You know, it's
almost
did lose to
who
Bowling
lost,
Green.
Who did
definitely lost to Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Cash it. That's Bowling. It's Tanner Morgan. It's your Keaton Slovis. It is your Michael Penix. Like it is these quarterbacks that it's Brock Purdy at Iowa State who lost at Baylor. It's a list of quarterbacks who are still in college football and they just have not been replaced by their backups, or that is the best that particular program has to offer because of what they've invested in what they thought was going to be a first-round NFL draft talent.
We talked about this earlier. Adi Joseph, one of our editors at CBSSports.com, put a tweet in the Slack today that was from Robert Griffin III, and he tweeted his Heisman ballot right now. And at number 4, he had Talia Tagovailoa. And my initial reaction was, I don't hate that. I think that's defensive. It's defensible. And the fact that Talia Tagovailoa might be a top 5 quarterback in the country right now, or at least you could make a actual argument that's not ludicrous, says a whole hell of a lot about the state of quarterback play in the country this year.
Without a doubt. Okay, so as we start to look at Arkansas, are you willing to take Arkansas, a team that now has to play Georgia and Auburn here in the next couple weeks, over under 1.5 wins
in that stretch?
Mm-hmm.
Is Jefferson going to play? Because somebody asked me this on Twitter earlier, like, what are you going to make that number next week with Arkansas going to Georgia? And I was like, if Jefferson doesn't play, it's going to be 20. But if he does play, I'd like, where is that Auburn game at? Is that in Arkansas or is it in Auburn?
The Georgia game is in Fayetteville. I believe the Auburn game is on the road. I can pull that up real quickly and waste time because I'm always talking too much on this podcast.
The Georgia game is in Athens
for sure.
And the Auburn game is in Fayetteville.
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, I'm going to go under 1.5. I mean, I think the question is just simply, instead of 1.5, it's like, can they beat Georgia? Because I think we both, or all three of us, are going to have them beating Auburn at this point. But I mean, that's going to be hard to go into Athens and beat Georgia. But then again, like, I've picked against Arkansas twice now this year. I picked against them against Texas, and I picked against them against Texas A&M, and they won both of those games. So maybe I'll pick against them here just to, inspire them to another win.
So before we get to Notre Dame, let's go ahead and hit Georgia real quick, because I believe that Todd Monken and JT Daniels and Kirby Smart had like a printout of my dumb Muppet face in the office, and they just decided that they were going to pin explosive plays to darts and just throw them right at my dumb Muppet face and be like, hey, you and your boy Barton, huh? Yeah. Like, I want to apologize to Barton, because I think that some of what Georgia did to Vanderbilt today was just trying to prove me wrong about how this really was the new explosive Georgia offense. So congratulations, Todd Monken and JT Daniels and Kirby Smart and all the Georgia fans that are so committed to making sure that we know that the Bulldogs are in the new era. They put it on the Commodores early, and that's congratulations.
They had 7 passing plays of 20 yards or more, and I think 7 or 6 of them came in the first 10 minutes. It was intentional. They were like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come, we're going to jack you up right away. We're going to show you all this stuff that's not us. And then we're just going to pack it in. That was a statement game. Like, Georgia understands nobody's going to give it credit for beating Vandy. So what do? You come out and beat them 62-0, because nobody's going to give you credit for anyway. But if you beat teams 62-0 and you hold them to 72 total yards, everybody's got to be like, well, all right, cool. In a year where there don't seem to be elite teams, that seems like an elite performance. So I feel like with Georgia, it's not a resume win, but it is one of those performances. It's like, well, we're looking for a team that we could say That's an elite team. That's a team I think can win the national title. We're seeing that every week those teams keep falling. Georgia, I think right now is, I mean, from start to finish, has there been a more impressive team?
Well, depending on what you think of Clemson, Bama might have a better win because Georgia didn't score a touchdown in that game on offense. But
but start to finish,
week
just
to
like
week,
quality of play, like in terms of competition, I hadn't considered that.
Georgia's looked really, really good. As somebody with a 10-1 Georgia ticket for the Natty, I was extremely happy with what happened to Clemson today because I think that really opens the door for Georgia to get in, even as a non-champ in the SEC. I think it drastically increases the odds, right, that they're able to do so. Georgia's front seven is just different, man.
Yes.
It really is.
It's an NFL team in the front seven.
Yeah, and it is allowing Georgia to bring its offense along at its own pace and sort of develop it and figure out what it can be. Vanderbilt, Barton's got a big rebuild there, obviously. Like they can't run. They lack team speed basically all over the field. And so you're like, oh, that Vandy guy's got an angle on him. No, he doesn't. Oh, shoot. Like the Georgia guy's going for a long play. But Georgia's got some guys who can really run on that offense. I don't think JT Daniels is like an amazing quarterback, but we just got done talking about how there might not be any amazing quarterbacks this year. And if the rest of the quarterback pack wants to come back to Georgia, guys, that plays right into Kirby Smart's hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame's, speaking of statement win, Notre Dame pulls away late against Wisconsin. Tom, you were live blogging this game for CBS Sports. I'll just go ahead and turn it over to you. To me, the final score seems deceiving.
Yes.
What did you? Okay, good. All right, go ahead and run with this one. What were some of your strong takeaways?
I mean, my biggest takeaway is that Wisconsin's just not a very good team. I think that Wisconsin defensively is very good. I think they're what you kind of expect. Like they had 6 sacks today. They had 12 tackles for loss, and they lost by 28 points. And I think that Graham Mertz at this point, honestly, I wrote about it in my takeaways after the game. Like, if you're Wisconsin, why aren't you making a change? Like, I understand that Graham Mertz was a highly rated recruit. He took the job from Jack Cohen last year when Jack Cohen got hurt. He came out, he was great, but he's been terrible since that first game against Illinois. He's got now, 3 touchdown passes to 11 interceptions. He threw 4 interceptions today, 2 pick sixes. And yeah, the second pick six, probably not his fault, but that doesn't change the fact that he threw 3 interceptions and another pick six before that. So I don't know if you're Paul Chryst, or if you're that Wisconsin defense, like if you're going into practice next week and Graham Mertz is still your QB, like there's going to be a mutiny in that locker room pretty soon. I don't know if you're that defense, you could sit there and watch that and not get frustrated. And as far as Notre Dame is concerned, I mean, Jack Cohen got hurt. He wasn't playing that great beforehand. You're missing Tyler Buckner, who's dealing with a hamstring injury. So in comes Drew Pine, who's technically your 3rd string QB. And he actually played pretty well. Like I thought when he came in, because it was a tight game, Wisconsin's defense, like I said, was playing really well. I thought Brian Kelly was going to turtle up and get ultra conservative with him. No, he came out, I think 2 of his first 3 plays, he was throwing down the field. They were trying to test that Wisconsin defense while they could, try to catch him off guard. And it was effective. And he was effective. He was 6 for 8, 81 yards, and a touchdown. But I still think that Notre Dame offensively, it cannot run the ball. It didn't run the ball against Florida State. It didn't run the ball well against Toledo. It didn't run the ball well against Purdue. And it didn't run the ball at all today against Wisconsin. And I think that's a problem. But we're also seeing that the way this season is going, that like they're 4-0. So the way other teams are playing, I don't care if it's pretty or ugly. You're 4-0 right now. You're 4-0. That's all that really matters, because we've seen Clemson's 2-2, North Carolina's 2-2. All these other top teams are losing. So I don't care if it's pretty right now. I think the only thing that matters is the win-loss record. So this is a Notre Dame team that I think right now we have to consider it a playoff contender, because I think we have to reevaluate what a playoff contender is this season.
There's no doubt they're a playoff contender, Tom. So on both these teams, Wisconsin does not have an offensive line that is just mashing people anymore.
Yeah.
It's just I don't think they're what they were. Like this Notre Dame defensive line was missing its starting nose guard. It's a good defensive line. It's not a Georgia defensive line or a classic Ohio State type defensive line, or even like one of the best Notre Dame defensive lines we've seen. And Wisconsin could not really push them around. I don't think teams fear their run game quite as much anymore. I think that hurts their play action game. I agree with you on what you said about Mertz. Obviously, like he's not played very well, but I also don't know like who do like their skill guys do you like? Ches Malusi, who was like third string at Clemson. I don't know. They don't scare me. But
I think that was part of it too. Like I feel like part of the problem Wisconsin's offensive line deals with is other teams have absolutely no respect for any of Wisconsin's receivers or its skill position players. So like I felt like what I saw today, and it was hard because God, I hate the camera angle at Soldier Field, but I felt like what I saw, Wisconsin was just Notre Dame was just throwing 8 dudes in the box. They were putting Kyle Hamilton on Jake Ferguson, and they were saying, all right, do something about it. And Wisconsin doesn't have anybody who could do anything about it. Like the few times Wisconsin receivers did get open, Graham Mertz was missing them by 10 yards.
All right. Now let's not let Notre Dame's offense off the hook here. 3.5 yards of play. And on a per play basis, Wisconsin outgained them by a lot. Like 3.5 gets you beat against almost anybody with a pulse of an offense. So the upcoming schedule for Notre Dame is pretty damn difficult. If they run this, I'll be impressed. Cincinnati, at the Hokies, home against SC, home against North Carolina. Now, all those teams have warts, but if you throw up 3.5 yards of play in any of those games, you're probably losing.
So I think Notre Dame is one of those dorky teams that is really good at special teams. And they're one of those dorky teams that find ways to beat the numbers. And like they're one of those dorky teams that might win all of those games, even averaging 3.5 yards per play on offense, because they just find the hidden yards out there. It's just
Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, I mean,
Wisconsin turns it over 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's how I'm like rating, judging, thinking about Notre Dame. It's like, yeah, you're right. That's 3.5 yards per play. It's not what you want to see. But
did you see the stat that Coca dropped in to the private chat
about Graham Mertz's start and finish?
First 2 starts, 7-0 touchdown pick ratio. Since then, 3-11.
Mm-hmm. I think he's thrown more pick sixes than he has touchdowns, or at least the same number in those last 8 starts.
Is this comment from Mike kind of spot on? Notre Dame is old school Virginia Tech.
Like
they're
Beamer ball Virginia Tech. I don't know. I don't think it's a terrible comp, but I don't think it's a totally accurate comp.
Notre Dame's teams were physical running the ball though. They just couldn't throw.
Yeah,
like this Notre Dame team
can't run the ball.
Line. No, but I do think there's hope. Like they're not going to give these games back. They get to keep these wins. And if Notre Dame gets healthy on the offensive line, I think it's possible they actually could be pretty damn good down the stretch. Because they're missing some key guys right now.
Before we hit the break, I want to make sure that we go ahead and get Clemson out here. Where, like, are you checking out? Do you care where Clemson's at right now? Because the last time that NC State beat Clemson was 2011. Clemson still won the ACC. Clemson could still win the ACC.
It could, the way the ACC is playing.
Like this, I'm not ready to prepare for a total free fall, and I'm very ready for Dabo to talk about his 3-loss Clemson Tigers as like this was a really special squad. Like whatever his speech is or whatever the spin is, Clemson can still be the ACC champions for a 7th year in a row and continue to build on its own league-wide reputation. But I mean, the team's out of the playoffs. Like that seems simple enough. But do you have any like larger concerns? Hey, I guess that's what do you care? Do you care where Clemson's at or why they're struggling right now?
I do, but my bigger concern right now is as we await the injury news on Brian Brzee and Will Shipley, because neither of those injuries look good.
I don't really have a whole lot of doubts about what Clemson is doing overall. But I have admired just how efficient Clemson has been as far as its evaluation of players, as far as how strict it is character-wise, who they take, who they don't take. They don't take transfers. They don't take JUCO guys. And that helps with their culture, they believe, but it also increases the degree of difficulty. If you miss on a guy or two, that miss is amplified because Clemson doesn't go out and get a transfer to help fix it, right? Like, I guarantee you there's transfers out there who probably want to go to Clemson. And maybe this is the type of season that will make Dabo Swinney say, I got to reevaluate a little bit, and I may need to take a body here on the offensive line. I may need to take somebody else at linebacker so we have better depth there. I may need to take somebody who is a slot receiver and not like some giant. Who knows? But I'm just interested to see how their process looks going forward. What does Dabo change, if anything, from this season?
What do you think, Tom?
Can we talk about NC State running 96 plays in this game compared to 49 for Clemson?
Yeah, the NC State defense was tremendous. And Clemson did not, like, the reason why NC State was able to score against Clemson's defense, which even after the loss of James Skalski in the first half and the loss of Brian Brzee in the third quarter, was because of field position. Like, NC State limited Clemson to, like 3 plays, 5 yards, 5 plays, 19 yards, only 1 or 2 first downs in a single drive. And if you give Devin Leary the ball at the 50-yard line, at the plus 45, at the minus 45, then eventually, like, they are going to be able to get into a position where they're going to score. I just thought that every single time that NC State's defense was thrown back onto the field, they answered in a huge way, which with one read is a incredible indictment of where Clemson is at offensively, especially with an offensive line where they're only leaning on like their 5 starters and not much rotational players, where they've got wide receivers who, other than Justin Ross, can't seem to get separation or get catches. But also you've got an NC State defense that's down. It's, Peyton Wilson for now a couple weeks now, but still shows up with some big time stops. That play discrepancy to me is a NC State defense compliment.
Circle the date, November 13th, NC State at Wake Forest for the Atlantic.
That is terrifying for an NC State fan because Wake Forest has won 10 out of the last 12 games in Winston-Salem against NC State.
I don't think it's going to happen, but there's not an unrealistic chance that Clemson finishes 4th in the division.
4th.
Louisville? Boston College.
Wake, NC State, or Louisville, BC. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's not a completely unreal scenario given how Clemson has looked and looking at the current injury situation and what might be coming in the next few days.
I don't think that Boston College's win. All right, you want to just go ahead and throw that one in here as well?
Sure.
Yeah. A 56-yard field goal from Missouri as time expired to force overtime, only to get a Boston College interception in overtime. Dennis Grossel, a quarterback who we were all ready to bail on, leading this team. Connor Bazelak maybe getting exposed a little bit. Another name of a quarterback who we thought was awesome in 2020 that maybe we're starting to reel that line back in a little bit. It was so funny because you had in one of the halftime shows, they said a little bit of bragging rights for the ACC over the SEC. Boston College gets a win over Missouri. And it's like, yeah, but ACC doesn't really want to talk about like conference versus conference.
Is that a post-game show or Danny's Twitter account?
So like, did Boston College impress you beating Missouri?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They ran the ball extremely well. I'm higher on BC's run game now than I was. I'm a little bit down on Missouri's run defense after seeing what South Carolina did to Kentucky tonight and looking at kind of that transitive game where, Kentucky ran all over Missouri. They were not able to run all over South Carolina tonight. So it does make me think, okay, I was too high on Missouri's run defense, which is to say, like, I thought it was bad, but not terrible. And it might just be straight terrible. So I got that wrong. BC, though, found a way to win the game. Like, they got outgained on a per play basis, but they converted more, other third downs, 11 of 17. Missouri struggled to get off the field. I thought Bazelak was mostly fine. I think BC had, 1 tackle for loss in the game?
Yeah.
There's definitely losses coming for BC. Like, they're not going to – but they deserve to win the game just as much as Missouri did. I thought the overtime was kind of the just result, but I thought Missouri was going to go there and really put a number on them, and they only got 34.
Yeah,
I thought they could score a lot more than that.
It's hard for me not to be impressed, but it's also because probably my expectations for after Jurkovich went down, I was like, oh God, they're doomed. But the fact that they've kept winning without him, Grissel, I know, again, Mizzou isn't the top team in the SEC, but I still think beating an SEC team is a good thing for Boston College. I think it's a good team for any team outside the power, SEC and a Power 5 conference who isn't considered a power to beat any SEC team. So I think it's a big win. I think that they've played well. I think that they're, again, like I was talking about with Notre Dame, like you're 4-0 right now. You're 4-0. That's all that really matters to me. Like you're good, because a lot of teams aren't.
Jeff Hafley, Coach of the Year.
It's going to be in the conversation if they keep this up.
Coach
Right?
of September? Like,
Oh.
I mean,
that'd be some really good podcast content. Wednesday, if we don't have any good ideas, we'll do
Our September.
it's got to be Greg Schiano.
September
Hell yeah.
superlatives. That's it.
Dino Babers?
Listen,
the
don't
drop tonight.
Drop it.
We've got the drop coming. We're gonna make
All
you
right, okay.
wait for the DINO drop. Don't you worry about that. Rutgers did give Michigan all it could handle. Michigan just did they show. I did not get a ton of eyes on this game because NC State Clemson went sideways, ended up having to write off that and handle that for both CBSSports.com and CBS Sports HQ. So you all let me know. Michigan Rutgers, was that Michigan shutting it down, or was that Rutgers shutting Michigan down?
I wouldn't go with as far as saying shutting Michigan down. I just think that what Rutgers is doing, like it's definitely defying the numbers, but I think that this was probably Rutgers' best game of the season so far,
Easily.
statistically, like the way they perform. But it's just, I think Rutgers is really good at making it hard. Like there's no easy yardage to gain against them. It's every play feels like you're in kind of a fight. And I think that's the identity of what that program is right now. And I think that Michigan's talent is winning out in the end in this game, but not by much. And I just think that, like, I mean, they held, like, Michigan had averaged 5 yards per play, but nothing was coming easy. Like the run game that has been dominant for them all season long was stifled. They only averaged 2.9 yards per carry, and it's not like due to sack yardage. Blake Corum averaged only 3.2 per carry. Hassan Haskins was 3.4. Like, again, Rutgers just makes it really hard on you. The problem is they're just not good enough offensively to really take advantage of that at the kind of level that they need to. But they're a team that I think if they were in the West, honestly, they might be the second best team in the West.
So, Tom, check out, you mentioned the 5 yards of play. First half, 7.1 per play to 3.8 for Rutgers. Like, look, Michigan dominated this first half. It looked like they were well on their way to a pretty easy cover. Rutgers offense looks exactly like it had all season. And in the second half, to me, when I was watching this, it was like Michigan did not have the same intensity level coming out for the second half. But Rutgers did. Rutgers continued to play extremely hard. They were still physical. Michigan could never really throw the knockout punch through the air, which is this the first decent pass defense? Well, no, Washington's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But like they were really hitting the knockout punch through the ground there more against the Huskies. And the Huskies also didn't have much of an offense, kind of like Rutgers. But Rutgers, to their credit, also stuck with the run game in the second half. It's not like Noah was throwing the ball very well. I mean, he was 18 of 31 for 156, which is, not good. Rutgers ended up running the ball for almost 200 yards. They just kept kind of chopping wood, to use Schiano's term, and pounding the rock. Like, was it going to get them the W? Probably not, but that's kind of what they were able to do, and it kept the game close. I think they deserve credit for that.
I'm going to be out here watching freaking Rutgers games all season long because of this.
That game made me much less likely to bet against Rutgers. If they had pulled another one of these like turnover fests,
because you said smoke and mirrors.
Pocus.
The quote
they
was
were smoke and mirrors.
Okay.
Yeah, like the defense was good, the punting was good, the offense was total trash. This is the best game their offense has played by far. Point wise, it's not going to show it, but like by far.
I feel like this is one of those years because things are so strange, but just like playing hard is going a lot further this year than it has in years past. And I think that's Rutgers' number one asset right now.
I agree. Oh, sorry. Tom, we are one touchdown away from our over with Cal Washington.
Did we lose Chip?
I think we lost Chip. All right.
That's fine.
Neither of us are fashionable enough to pull this off.
I know. I feel underdressed for the live show because Chip's wearing a blazer.
I'm wearing a fishing shirt. So, all right. Let's. Where do you want to take this?
Well, let's see. Do we even want to spend any time talking about Alabama and Ohio State?
No.
Okay, good. Let's see. Oklahoma. Oh, we talked about Oklahoma a little bit. See, this is why we need Chip, bud.
Do we want to talk about Iowa State, Baylor?
Oh, yeah, we should probably definitely talk about Iowa State and Baylor because this way we can gloat a little bit about Iowa State losing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't cash that ticket yet on the Iowa State under because it was 9.5, but I'm feeling pretty good about that one. How much of this game did you get to watch?
I saw a lot of the second half. I didn't see barely anything in the first half, but when I saw what the score was and I was like, oh, wow, Baylor might actually pull this off. I started paying a lot more attention to it in the second half. And it's like, from what I saw, I was like, man, Baylor didn't play very well, but it won the game. Like, this is like, yeah, I'm looking at the box score now. In the second half, Iowa State had 282 yards. Baylor had 70. And this is like a theme for the day because this was like the same thing with the Michigan State Nebraska game. We just talked about it with Michigan Rutgers. It's like the new market inefficiency is coming out in the second half and playing like ass and winning.
So Baylor outgained by 200 yards in this game, 479 to 282. Yeah, they have a kick return touchdown, which helps to. Anytime I see a huge yardage disparity like that, I'm like, okay, well, maybe one team was just much more efficient on a per play basis. Maybe like, nope, not really. Iowa State 6.6 per play, Baylor 5.4 per play. Iowa State not able to get it done in the green zone, in the red zone, like Baylor was. Like Baylor finished drives better. I mean,
well,
Baylor won a game with 282 yards of offense.
Yeah. And like the craziest thing of this is like our biggest complaint or concern, I should say, about Iowa State has been like a lack of explosion, particularly in the passing game. They had explosive plays all over the place in this game. They had 10 plays for over 15 yards in the passing game. They had 6 of over 10 yards in the rushing game. They had a 30-yard run, a 42-yard run, a 34-yard run. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 passing plays of 20 yards or more. Like Iowa State finally busted out explosive plays on offense, and it lost by 2 to Baylor.
Field goal. Kicking that many field goals will get you beat. Oftentimes, I mean, if you're playing a decent team, field goals in the high scoring environment are typically failures. Obviously, this game, much higher scoring than Vegas thought it would be. But yeah, man, congrats to Baylor. Like, let me ask you this: are you changing your power ratings on either of these teams after this game based on how it played out?
No.
Yeah,
I don't think so. But I mean, while we're in the Big 12 though, like, because Texas just against Texas Tech today. Like you don't typically see 70 burgers in conference play, but like, where are you evaluating the Big 12 right now? Because obviously Oklahoma kind of had another close home win against West Virginia. They beat them by 3, but they're 4-0. Baylor's 4-0. Oak State's 4-0. All of them are undefeated in the Big 12. Texas has the loss to Arkansas, but it's 3-1 and it's 1-0 in the Big 12. Like, who's the second best team in this conference right now? Hell, who's the best team? Because are you 100% convinced Oklahoma is the best team in the Big 12?
No, I'm really not convinced Oklahoma's the best team in the Big 12. I think it probably is, but like, would you take Oklahoma over the field right now? For maybe?
I mean,
probably like the odds say yes, but I wrote in my column last week, I bet Oklahoma minus 165 for the league to start the year. Now the market price currently is like minus 2.25, which suggests that they're better against the rest of the league, as you know, than they were in the preseason. But man, after watching them tonight, I don't know if I really buy that. They're not, first of all, Rattler. Second of all, they're not real physical up front right now. Like they don't really move people in the run game. And I think because people are less concerned about their ability to run the ball, they do not have to worry about some of the play action stuff quite as much. They can play some of the RPO stuff a little bit differently, and it does make them less effective. I know they were making all kinds of excuses for Rattler on the broadcast. And some of those I thought were maybe unjustified, but some of them I think were, right? Like that Oklahoma offensive line is not the typical Bill Biedenbaugh unit that we have seen in recent years.
Yeah, there's just a lot. Like Marvin Mims is getting over 20 yards per catch, I still think, on the season, but like that's really their only explosive aspect of their offense, and it really just hasn't been there very much. I feel like teams are just kind of dropping 8 against them, and Oklahoma hasn't really done much against it. But maybe this is bad timing to ask the question, seeing as how Texas just scored 70 points today. But does Oklahoma even have the best offense in the Big 12 anymore?
Not so far this year. I mean, you can argue Texas. Although, look, Texas got totally shut down against Arkansas. And I'm sure you'd counter that and say, well, hey, that was Hudson Card, and now we have Casey Thompson. And Thompson played well today. Texas Tech's defense might be pretty bad, by the way.
Yeah, I think that's definitely playing a role here. But Casey Thompson was 18-3, 303 yards, 5 touchdowns. He did have an interception. Bijan Robinson rushed for 137. He also had 54 yards receiving, and I think it was a 38-yard touchdown on one of them. So I don't know, man. Like that, the way when I was watching Texas today, my biggest takeaway was if they play like that, they'll beat Oklahoma. They could win the Big 12. And I feel like after the way they looked in that Arkansas game, that is not something I thought I would be thinking again this time this season. But thankfully, I'm at least smart enough not to go the Texas's back route.
I mean, that league right now is so kind of topsy-turvy. TCU lost at home to SMU. I think TCU, by the way, has an explosive plays problem on defense. Like they came back to beat Cal. They out-physicaled Cal. Zach Evans went nuts. But TCU just gives up home run balls to SMU to start the game again. Like what? How does this happen every game for TCU? Just there's an 80-yarder again. That's pretty wild.
Here, I got a question for you. This is one I got hit with a bunch of times today, and it kind of melted my brain. Who's the best quarterback in the Big Ten West?
Ooh, okay.
Exactly.
All right.
I mean, we've got Spencer Petras. We've got whoever Purdue's sending out there at any given time. We've got.
You are not going to get me to say Tanner Martinez.
You've got Adrian Martinez, Tanner Morgan, Hunter Johnson, and Graham Mertz.
Oh.
It's like Spencer Petras or Adrian Martinez are probably the two best answers.
Okay, so we had the discussion, and maybe nationally, the top quarterbacks are not as good this year. This Big Ten West is unique. Like, there's usually some guy that even the NFL guys are like, well, he's not super productive in college, but we like some of these traits.
Like the tools.
Yeah, they run an unnecessarily tough offense for college, but it translates well to the NFL, blah, blah, blah. I don't know we have this guy this year. Right? Is it Tanner Morgan? And what happened there? So I did not get to watch any of Bowling Green go over my win total. None.
I saw like the last 5 minutes because it was when Minnesota had the ball late and they were trailing, and that's when I finally got to it, because I kept telling myself, like, I was seeing all the tweets about it. I'm like, there's no way in hell Minnesota is going to lose that game. And it's like, oh my God, Minnesota might actually lose. But no, Tanner Morgan, all right, final stat line, 5 for 13 for 59 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Although he did rush for 10 yards on 10 carries.
If this was a road game, would Minnesota have left Mike Sanford on the tarmac as they fly home?
I mean, it's if you look at the timeline, I know that correlation isn't necessarily causation. But like like that offense was great. Kirk Ciarrocca was there, and obviously they still had Rashad Bateman at the time. They had Tyler Johnson. They had a bunch of good receivers. But that offense was really good under Ciarrocca. Good enough that Ciarrocca gets hired to go to Penn State, takes the offensive coordinator job there. Mike Sanford comes in. Tyler Johnson's gone, but they still got Rashad Bateman. And last year, the offensive line, they were dealing with a bunch of COVID issues, but like Tanner Morgan fell off the face of the earth. The offense as a whole fell off the face of the earth. And now this year, like, I understand losing Mo Ibrahim is a big deal, but Potts, his replacement, rushed for 141 yards today. So it's like, I don't think that's that big of a deal. It's just the passing game is gone because Bowling Green went on the road and beat a Big Ten team with 192 yards of offense while averaging 3.1 yards per play.
Bowling Green is I've said they're improved on this very show. I kind of like this team better than I did last year, obviously, but they're still a bottom 20 team in the country, probably. And that's remarkable. Another team that has not looked good at all so far this year, but ended up pulling out a dub, LSU. They go on now. Look, depending on when you got this, Mississippi State covered if you bet it on Sunday or Monday. If you waited and you took Mississippi State plus 2.5, you lost. Same thing, I believe, for the under with how that dropped. Although that may be a little different on that. I watched a good bit of this game, and I got to say, on a down-to-down basis, Mississippi State was much more like consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But LSU just hit every time they got a couple guys on base, they hit a home run. I mean, it was just the big shots. So their three touchdowns that that really kind of swung the game: 64-yarder, 58-yarder, 41-yarder, and they only had 4 explosive pass plays on the day. Tom, their only other play over 20 yards was a 20-yard pass, literally like 2-0. That's it. So LSU just made the absolute most out of every explosive play that they had, and they didn't have that many of them, but they just they made them count. Turnovers. Mississippi State had 2 pretty untimely ones. Mississippi State actually ran the ball for 115 yards, which is kind of crazy. And Will Rogers.
Hell, the fact they ran the ball 26 times. Forget the yardage total. When it comes to a Mike Leach team, I see them running over 20 times. It's like, huh?
I mean, just a lot of kind of wasted drives here for Mississippi State, right? So they go 45 and fumble. They go 38 and throw a pick. If you remember, what did we remember? Matt Hinton, the columnist, he had like, so he had a stat. It was called like wasted yards, right? So it's yards on drives in which you don't score, and it always kind of stuck with me. So 45 yards fumble, 38 yards pick, 80 yards field goal, 60 yards field goal, 32 yards into the half. That was Mississippi State's first half. Mississippi State moved the ball up and down the field on LSU all the first half, didn't score. Now, the final 3 drives for Mississippi State, 75 tutty, 66 touchdown.
What was the total in this game?
I got under 58. I think it closed like 55, maybe 53. Let me look.
Oh, that's got to be painful then. Those 3 75-yard drives to finish it out.
Oh yeah.
What's up, guys?
Oh,
what's going on, dude?
Whoa. Thanks for coming back there.
Hey, can we ask Chip the question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Chip, who is the best quarterback in the Big Ten West?
The best quarterback in the Big Ten West.
It got dark with you gone, man. It got real dark.
That's where y'all hit.
Do you need me to read you your candidates?
No.
Okay.
Because I'm going to tell you the reason, not the reason, but internet got real spotty as I tried to dig something literally out of the archives. I was blowing the digital dust off something just to try to get it queued up and just to try to get it ready. And everything went haywire because you have to go so far back in the archives to get excited about something that is as electric as.
Close your eyes for me.
Yes.
Visualize this. You're in the carrier dome. The house is filled. The feeling is electric. The noise is deafening. You have a defense that is relentless. You have a special teams that has been well coached. You have an offense that will not huddle. And you have a game that's faster than you've ever seen on turf. Open your eyes. That's going to be a reality. That's going to be Syracuse football.
It's been too long.
I was pulling the digital.
Is that really what broke your internet?
I hope not. I mean, or maybe I hope so because now it's done and it won't mess up again. But I was scrambling. I was pulling wires together, trying to get it queued up because Syracuse's win against Liberty demanded that the DINO drop get played on the reaction show.
I mean, that was like that was gut check Friday for Syracuse. They needed that win really badly. You can't be losing at home to Liberty 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
You just can't.
No. Open your eyes.
But still, you dodged the question. Who's the best quarterback in the Big Ten West?
Spencer Petras.
See, you can't tell him he's wrong because it might be right.
Yeah. No, it's Spencer Petras.
He's betting on potential. I like it. Like,
No,
we
no,
know
no.
everybody else is bad. Petras may not be bad.
No, Petras can get you.
You need
I need
3 yards on 3rd and 7. Spencer Petras is your guy.
I need 2 plays where you need to raise your level to like a plus value quarterback at the Power 5 level. I think Spencer Petras can give me 2. I don't think Graham Mertz can give me 2. I don't think Tanner Morgan can give me 2. I don't think Brandon Peters can give me 2. I don't think Adrian Martinez can give me 2. Adrian Martinez might be able to give me 2, but he's also going to give me like 3 negative plays.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys watch that game tonight?
I did. That was probably the worst special teams game that did not involve like a blocked punt or like a bad punt snap that I have ever seen.
It is. I think Nebraska's superpower is playing well enough, but always finding at least one thing to really screw up. And tonight, like, the wheel landed on special teams. Although their special teams have been bad all season long. But like you're saying, yeah, that was just all in all, just an awful performance.
Like, there's got to be somebody try to figure out what in the world Nebraska practiced last year during those illegal practices, because it probably wasn't like it definitely wasn't special teams. We can check that off the list, right, guys? Let's mark the one special teams. Holy cow!
That's the they averaged 32 yards on a punt.
It's not Jake
One
Plummer,
punt went 9 yards.
O'Connell.
The other punt, it's a rugby directional kick. All of the coverage is going to the right. The punter's going to the right. Everything. The guy kicks it 24 yards, dead left. It was a shank, but it was a shank in bounds to the other return man. Like, he didn't have to juke anybody. He just jogged. Mm-hmm. The strength coach is like, bro, you didn't hit your numbers on the sensor. It didn't trigger. Go back and run it again. That's.
Do we? Did y'all get a chance to talk about our man Pope, Kevon Pope?
Kevon Pope quitting the team and then
the team in the middle of the game.
No,
I mean, is that an unfair guess? I mean, I will admit right now.
I don't know. His tweets certainly suggest he's not planning on coming back.
I will admit right now, I have not done some hardcore reporting on it. I've been tied up with other game day activities, but it sure seems, based on the tweets, that's the end of Kevon Pope playing for Ohio State right now, and we just saw it happen on the sideline, right?
Yeah. Do you think that we could donate a functional keyboard for Kevon Pope, because he misspells luck and also another word that rhymes with luck, because he just uses a bunch of C's in there.
That was my editorial question to our editors. Are you
making a joke?
Yeah, I'll paste this in. I'm probably not supposed to say the word on the show.
I posed the question to our editors: can I use that word if I spell it this way? Like, can I get that through copy? Is that okay? Is that fine? Because I'm going to start doing it if I can. We didn't talk about Florida and Tennessee yet, so we should probably talk about that.
Oh, the best one-liner from this game. Did you watch like late into the fourth quarter?
I had it on mute.
Cam.
Yeah.
So I had a pretty good amount jammed on -17 on the look-ahead line, so I was very interested to make sure that Dan Mullen was going to get that cover for the boosters. And since Dan Mullen probably thought that number was 19, because that's where it closed at, he went ahead and did get that. And then Joe Milton had to come into the game, and it's like, yes, right. And the announcers are like, now the Tennessee coaching staff really feels he has great potential. Now they can just harness this potential. And then he hits the cameraman against the wall with the pass. I was like, oh my God. I watched a pretty good amount of this game. Did you guys get eyeballs on it?
I had a lot of eyeballs on it, but it was a muted television, so I didn't get the soundtrack to it.
Florida had like a couple coverage busts, one tackling issue, and then this thing would have been put away earlier had they not fumbled going down in Tennessee's red zone. They pretty much controlled the game, other than the point when Tennessee was up 14-7. But after that, it was Florida kind of got over their hangover. There was a lot of hangover games this weekend, man. Minnesota off their huge win at Colorado. Auburn seemed to take a little while to get in the gear. That was tough.
I didn't see any of that game. All I saw was the highlight of TJ Finley's touchdown. That was just stupid.
I saw TJ Finley getting the game ball and getting cheered in front of the student section, and our good friend Jerry Hennon saying, "Yeah, let's give him the game ball and never speak of this game ever again." If you're an Auburn coach, you just say, "Hey, let's."
Now, did Bo Nix get hurt, or was he just replaced because of performance reasons?
He got hit. I don't know if he got hurt.
Okay, because
he got hit low. I'm not going to say he didn't get hurt. I don't know officially like if he was actually like bad hurt or not.
Oh, because I feel like this QB comparison, we were talking about all the concerns with like Emory Jones and then fans wanting Anthony Richardson in Gainesville. But I feel like between the Alabama game last week and the Tennessee game tonight, I feel like Emory Jones is kind of settling in. Florida's kind of figuring out how to use him best. And he's playing well. He threw for over 200 yards. He rushed for 144. And then because again, I didn't see the Auburn game. I just knew that Finley was in, and I was wondering what the Knicks thing was. And I was like, are they kind of doing the same kind of thing, but with a different direction where they're like, all right, maybe Bo Nix isn't our guy?
I thought UCLA had a good win today. Did y'all get a chance to hit that?
Yeah, I was on Stanford +5, so I was very much interested. I was in a lock fight with both Danny and Bud, which I lost.
Oh, I forgot about the lock fight. I just thought that for UCLA, that was a tough spot.
Yeah, but DTR was doing DTR saw all the attention Jake Haener got last week. So he was doing like his Haener impression. I don't know what was wrong with his arm or shoulder, but he was clearly in a lot of pain in that game towards the end of it. He was staying in the game and he was still making plays, but I don't know. That's going to be an interesting thing to keep track of this week because he definitely did not look to be anything close to 100%.
No, he was holding that hand pretty hard after the game. So, Fresno was a team that had a hangover, big time.
UNLV on Friday.
Yeah, that was wild.
Lot to dissect. What? Sorry, bud. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Go ahead.
And y'all hit North Carolina?
No, we were waiting for you to come back because we wanted you to talk about it.
I didn't get to watch any of it.
Sam Howell's high variance is the drug that North Carolina football fans aren't ready for. North Carolina football fans want to be able to go a comfortable 8-4, get me to the college basketball season. Let's get to a bowl game. If it's in a good destination against a good opponent, we'll go. And there's this wild thing with Howell right now where in the midst of this offense, if it's not there, he just holds on to the ball. It is building your entire offense off this RPO. It's building your entire offense off of these reads that if everything's not clicking, it can get really bad, really fast. And that's exactly what happened against Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech's defense did a very good job of getting the coverage that they needed at the lines, but also just giving Sam Howell some looks that led to a lot of second guessing, led to a lot of trying to get to your second or your third read, or I don't know. It's just the exact opposite of the narrative. Shocker. Mac Brown sold an off-season narrative that everybody bought, but the offseason narrative was that listen, Phil Longo and Sam, they've been going to the next level this offseason. They've been studying tape and they're looking at the NFL stuff. Okay. He understands how to read these defenses. He understands how to make the right decisions. And that is, again, the narrative that it was sold all throughout the offseason. And the common thread when North Carolina's offense struggled, which it did not against Virginia, not even in the first half and definitely not in the second half. I think that one of the things we're seeing is they have figured out some sort of blueprint or game plan that a lot of defensive coordinators are putting in place, and they are giving Sam Howell looks that is making him hold on to the ball too long and guess what his reads and what his progressions are. And it makes North Carolina's entire offense kind of crumble at the foundation. That's my read on the situation.
It makes a lot of sense to me. We want to give Jeff Collins some credit for really putting together 2 nice defensive game plans in a row. I know Dabo commented last week about how they threw a lot of stuff at Clemson that Clemson wasn't expecting. I mean, they may not have done anything that North Carolina wasn't expecting. Who knows? Like, they may have just executed extremely well with what they wanted to do. I mean, look, Sims and Gibbs, nice running combo. Georgia Tech, they could make a bowl. I don't think so, but it's possible.
The Northern Illinois loss basically screwed them.
Yeah.
Because if you put them against the rest of their ACC schedule, you're going to be like, I don't know. Like, there's not a lot of coastal opponents that you're saying are definite losses for Georgia Tech or wins for the opponent.
If we're going to talk about the coastal, do we need to talk a little bit about Thursday night?
That was App State Marshall.
No, Wake UVA.
That was Friday.
Friday night. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. I mean, Wake's great.
Wake didn't punt until like 5 minutes left in the game. Like, that Wake that we saw on Friday night was much better than the Wake I saw play FSU. Like I was like, everybody's like, oh, this is the best Wake team ever after they played FSU. Like, I don't know, man. Like, they look good, but they didn't look special. Like, that Wake that we saw on Friday looked amazing.
I think Clawson's got a sober view of it where he says, I've got no complaints about the way we're executing. Like, he seems to know. He's like, if we don't execute perfectly, if we don't, shout out to Wake nerds, if I don't have a 1580 on the SAT, yeah, I'm old. But yeah, it's like, if I don't have a 1580 or 1590, then things might get a little dicey. But Wake is executing great. So
did you get a 1580?
No, I didn't.
I was like, yeah, shit, that is really, really good. That's what I remember.
I was waitlisted at Wake. Okay, I did not get into Wake Forest. I was waitlisted. I got into North Carolina. I got into Georgia. I was waitlisted at Wake. I don't have a 1580.
Oh, so that's why you hate Florida.
Yeah.
I never knew you got into Georgia, but now it all makes sense.
Yeah.
You hate Florida because you actually are a dog.
The Georgia pod coming, what's that coming down the tracks? Something red and black. Yeah, the Georgia pod gig was something I could fall into. It was a suit that fit for sure.
Can we talk Old Dominion?
You go. All you.
Oh my God, this is so annoying. So I bet Buffalo on Sunday on the live show. If you guys want to watch the live show and watch me get incredible values, then just go up in Total Flames tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern. Hit me up there on this very channel. Bet Buffalo at 11. I think it closes, 13 or 14, Tom?
Yeah, about, yeah.
They're up 35-7, feeling pretty good. I switched that game off because I only had like one ESPN Plus feed. Old Dominion comes back to tie the game, basically, ridiculously so. On a 4th and 11, they throw a jump ball and the kid catches it. Then they have some of their backup players run onto the field to help celebrate, and they get hit with a 15-yard celebration penalty, which backs up the extra point. And then college kickers, the kid misses the extra point, and they lose 34-35 after all of that, which I was loving because I have Old Dominion on the under for the season win total anyway. So if they beat Buffalo, I'd have been pretty annoyed. But I did feel bad for that kid.
And is there? Oh, okay, DJ Matt. I thought it was. Never mind. I thought Old Dominion's quarterback was an old Buffalo quarterback, but I was going to be like, no way, that kid's way too old to be him.
That kid can run a little bit. The DJ Matt kid, he's not bad.
I didn't get a chance to see it, but my heart broke for you.
Speaking of heartbreaking losses, Bud, are we going to lose the over in this Cal Washington game?
Yeah, I am just. This is just sitting there like a. Oh, well, I don't know. So Cal's got the ball at its own 38. You got 6 minutes left in the game.
It's like, is this a scoreless second half so far?
It's going to be a scoreless final 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah. I'm getting karma for that Boise Oklahoma State under last week.
Dancing there 21-20 all the way to Ticket Town.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very annoying today. What did that line close at? 71?
Which one?
Over under for Boise, Utah State?
Oh, yeah, that was at least 70.
It opened at 63. It danced out to
63.
70 or 71. And the live total at halftime, I was on the halftime show for CBS Sports HQ. Live line, I think, was 48.
Didn't even get there. It finished 27-3.
I guess don't play 10 a.m. local games or something. That's wild.
Did you watch it?
It wasn't like, yeah, like they moved the ball.
Yeah,
They had they had over 900 yards of offense.
Utah State in the third quarter had 3 scoring opportunities as defined by ball inside the 40-yard line. Those 3 scoring opportunities resulted in a missed field goal, an interception, and a turnover on downs.
That'll do it.
I did, however, get lucky today on one. Like I got screwed on some really bad beats and some moves that I was like, okay, this is I was on the right side, move wise. I had the over 47 in Clemson NC State.
That's nasty.
Yeah.
I hope you took a bath. Hope you took a long soak after that. I think I got a push on 48.
Yeah,
for
you
the
did.
locks.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was maybe 47.5, 48, 48.5. I saw somebody on Twitter just jumping in the mentions talking about the 48.5 still cashed. So NC State Clemson total might be one of those where having the right number, that's a Bud descriptor right there. You know, having the right number does matter.
I want to say something about Kentucky.
Okay.
Kentucky, I like conceptually what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to run the St. Louis Rams type stuff. They have a pretty good run game with a good offensive line. And Will Levis is just very intent. Like when they give him, all right, it's play action time, he wants to just chuck the ball deep. And just whether it's open or not. I don't know, man. Like this makes me more concerned about Missouri's defense because they carved up Missouri's defense. And tonight against South Carolina, they really didn't carve it, all that well. I kind of like what they're doing on offense. It's just not quite there yet. And I don't know that Kentucky's defense is all that good yet. I think South Carolina's offense is probably pretty bad. That's what I have on Kentucky. I know Coca put in some different teams to talk about to finish out the show in the private chat.
Oh, Iowa, I'm not scared at all by the fact that Colorado State had that at 14-14. I mean, that was a Colorado State Super Bowl, and Iowa was just trying to get the W by any means necessary.
Well, also Iowa's offense isn't very good. It's like that's the thing with Iowa. It's the thing we've been talking about all season long. It's going to be hard for them to dominate teams when their offense is as bad as it is. Period. I don't care who you're playing. Like unless their defense is scoring touchdowns, which again they scored another defensive touchdown today. They returned a fumble for a score. They're just, I mean, they averaged 5 yards per play, so I'll give them credit there. But it's just there's really no explosion to it. It's just very slow. It's very methodical. It is complementary football, but it's just not that intimidating in the slightest. If I'm more scared of their defense than I am their offense, that's for sure.
Now I'm forgetting what I was going to say.
Well, they had a couple big plays. All right, I'm being unfair, but
Colorado State. Sorry, is there a team you guys cannot figure out more than Colorado State? This team lost to Vandy. It lost to an FCS team. It goes on the road very shorthanded, without a lot of its best players, and somehow beats a pretty decent Toledo team that could win the MAC. A Toledo team that went on the road today and handled Ball State. And then
I have no
with Iowa.
They are a college football team. This is 100% I don't know. You are a not very good college football team. Like all of those teams in your power rating of 1 to 130 that exist in the space between 50 and 75, you're not going to be able to figure out, because the reason they're between 50 and 75 is they're not a very good college football team, which means that if everything falls in line and if everything works, then yeah, their ceiling could be competing for a couple quarters with Iowa. But the reason that they exist between 50 and 75 is that they have shortcomings in talent and they have inconsistency in execution. So I kind of feel like Colorado State's variance is what makes them intriguing and just a college football team.
Let's play a game here.
Okay.
Where does UTSA finish in every Power 5 conference besides the SEC?
In the ACC Coastal, third, in the Atlantic, second.
No, but shout out to UTSA getting another big win, beating Memphis, coming back from they were down 21-0 after the first. They were down 28-14 going into the third. They outscored the Tigers 17-0 in the fourth quarter. They are very much like I feel like as long as Cincinnati doesn't lose twice, they're going to get a New Year's 6 spot. But I think at the end of the year, UTSA will be the second best Group of 5 team in the country.
I don't know if I can go their second best, but like they really know what they are and they do it extremely well. Like we're going to run the ball a 1990s NFL, back in a contract year type amount with Sincere McCormick.
Yes.
And
And
we're gonna
42
play
carries.
Yeah, exactly. 40. Like, when's the last time you saw a guy get 42 carries in the game who was not Sincere McCormick?
I don't know, but he was wearing a Wisconsin jersey.
No, his name was Derrick Henry, and he won the Heisman.
True.
Right. See, this is why we needed Chip to come back, because in the wilderness, there was a comment in the comment section that said, like, next time Chip goes to renegotiate, show him this. It was Tom and I trying to drive the show. It was driving in the mountain.
I think Fernelli and Bud exchange boogers. That's not nice, Samuel. What is that about?
Is Samuel on talking all the smack, saying Chip looks like he's going to school picture day, and Tom and Bud exchange boogers?
I think Samuel's coca, honestly. I don't know.
Wow.
Did y'all get a chance to talk Iron Skillet, SMU TCU?
No.
Briefly. No, we did. We mentioned that TCU gives up bombs to start the game every single game.
Oh, that's just what they do. You can't trust them because they're like
Chase Garber's bombed it all over him.
Yeah, that's true. That game played out exactly as I expected, and the fact that SMU won is a positive for SMU, but I don't change my TCU grade all that much. That was the game that I thought could happen. Is that fair?
I don't change my TCU grade at all because I never thought TCU was that good to begin with. So the fact that you're not changing it is kind of concerning to me.
Could TCU make it to the Big 12 championship game?
No. Because TCU, when I say my grade for TCU, I'm not calling like my preseason TCU's a Big 12 dark horse. I'm looking at TCU as a team that has a high explosive potential without being consistent enough defensively to be able to, pull everything together and win.
Chip, I think that's fair. I just think TCU has enough talent that I'm still going to blindly and irrationally believe that I can get them to the Big 12 title game before they lose. I don't know,
you're just asking about your future bet?
Yeah. No, I'm not saying will you pick them to get there. I'm just saying, like, how dead is that thing? Should I move it from like the most likely dead to definitely dead column? I think so.
Is it as dead as my Bowling Green under 1.5?
No, it is not, because that one is dead.
Is it as dead as my Louisiana Monroe under? They beat Troy tonight.
Yeah.
ULM beat Troy. How about that?
Yeah.
Man, that was impressive.
Yeah. Very impressive. Okay. We will save the top 4 teams right now.
Alabama, Georgia. Is Oregon losing?
No.
Oregon. And Arkansas. There's 3 SEC teams in my top 4. No, I would probably go Penn State over Arkansas right now, but I don't know. I think the resumes are pretty close.
I think it's probably Penn State is the 4th.
Really?
But, like, would you take Penn State over Florida on a neutral right now?
No.
I wouldn't either.
So Florida the 4th?
If we're doing power rankings, but not resume.
Okay.
Let's just go with Alabama, Georgia, Arkansas, and Florida.
Yeah, I think that is the official Cover 3 podcast, Week 4 instant reaction show, top 4, Alabama, Georgia, Arkansas, Florida.
Mm-hmm. Print the graphic.
Yeah, let's go. Print the graphic, aggregate the content, share it on social, and tell your friends. And tell your friends to download the Cover 3 podcast. You can download it wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch us live here on youtube.com/cover3. You can follow him on Twitter at BudElliott3. You can follow him at Tom Fernelli. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming back.